going to be delayed, right?
A little bit, but you're good now.
We're on?
Yeah.
Hey folks, Attorney Matthew Hill here with Kerry Baker. It's good to be back and answering some of y'all's questions. It's been too long, so I'm excited to get rolling into this. Kerry, good to see you in person.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Well, let's just roll right in. We don't have any community questions today, so we're just going to start with first ones we get. So, Mr. Lewis, I have an ACE exam for my migraines next Wednesday. Never heard of those before. Well, what's an ACE exam?
That is what's called an acceptable clinical evidence exam. That's what ACE stands for, acceptable clinical evidence. It's basically where you don't have to show up for the exam unless they've changed their rules. They're going to look at your record and they, for some reason or another, determine that they have enough evidence in the file and can do the exam and give the raters the accurate results without bringing you in to do an in-person exam. I think that would be a little difficult with migraines. I think you'd want to
at least some statements from you.
Yeah.
So as far as is it a good thing or bad thing, we can't tell you. I mean, maybe they think there is enough evidence in there, and just going to say rate it. But Mr. Lewis, you'll have to get back to us on that.
Well, and if that person asks the question, if they are told to go to the exam, then it's not an ACE.
It's not an ACE, yeah.
Even though it might say it on their paperwork.
Hobby, do you need a diagnosis when filing for mental health? When I went to my local VA yesterday and was told they do not diagnose, only treat, that I do not need a diagnosis to file a claim. So you do not need a diagnosis to file a claim. You can say I have a mental health condition and that it's related to service, and then VA, through their duty to assist, should send you to a C&P exam for them to give you a diagnosis. Would a diagnosis help? It wouldn't hurt. But yeah, I mean, if you come out and say I have something related to service, then they have to send you to an exam to get that information. All right, Ryan, linking GERD secondary to PTSD. Any tips not due to medication?
Well, what comes to mind is anxiety disorders in general. They affect different people in different ways. Some people get gastrointestinal disturbances from, just the physiologic reaction between mental health and your gut. So yeah, that now whether that can cause GERD or not, I mean that's more of a medical conclusion there. But it can certainly affect one's appetite. It can affect acid being produced more in the stomach, sometimes because you're not eating as much, and your body's yet still in this, jumping between this fight or flight stage. And so yeah, but as far as the secret to it, you could have a hard time depending on the examiner you draw or the medical opinion that they deliver if you get one.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Audio is low, but my volume is maxed out, so we'll try to talk a little louder. Thanks, Radio Killer. Donald Dodson, question: should I still have my private expert, Psych D, complete a DBQ for me? I recognize the VA RO will ignore it, but was hoping higher authority will read it. I mean, Donald, I like the fact that you're thinking strategically here in that, yeah, when do you put that in? You definitely should put it in. Typically what I like to do is put our expert opinion in after the VA sends you to C&P exam. If you put that in first, 9 times out of 10, the VA is going to look at it and say, oh, wow, let's get our expert, our C&P examiner to comment on it. But I like what you're thinking here, in that I would want that to be in there before the evidence record is closed and you would be going to higher level review.
I agree. It's only going to help in the long run if they'll do it, even if it's ignored up front. Absolutely do it if you can.
I'm going to have to get Kerry to talk not so baritone. I think that's the problem with y'all not being able to hear him. All right, Timothy C. I'm wondering if I can get a back date of claims for TBI starting from the date of the incident. I couldn't file due to other than honorable discharge, recently upgraded to general discharge.
That would be no.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, no way around that one, unfortunately. Statutory bar.
Philip Sage, are blue water claims superseding all other legacy claims?
Read that again.
Are blue water claims superseding all other legacy claims?
No, I would say not.
Well, Nemo, in theory, is supposed to supersede any other claims, though, right?
Well, I don't know what they mean by supersede.
I'm assuming they mean by take priority over.
If you've got multiple claims, and that being one of them, I don't think that one should take priority over the other. But when you're Nemo claims, there's gonna be certain people developing.
Hold on, we got a TV timeout.
Let's, yeah, because everyone's, there's a lot of people having issues with the sound.
Okay,
So let's just reorganize it.
you want me to pull it out like this?
Yeah, just let them know we'll be right back. That the screen will still be up.
Oh, we're gonna go out and come back?
Yeah, I'm gonna shift it to our technical difficulties.
Oh, we got some technical difficulties apparently with the audio. We will be right back, though. Are we there? Can you hear us? That says it's going.
Yeah.
All right, so are we live again?
Yeah.
Kerry, you got to scoot over this way. All right, folks, sorry about that. Hopefully you can hear us better now. I think Donald didn't hear our answer, and I thought his question was great. It was with private examiner, should he get a private expert medical opinion to complete his DBQ, so his own treating doctor to get a DBQ, and will the VA just ignore it, but he wants it in there for higher level review. So yes, Donald, I think the VA will ignore it, but I think getting it in there right now is really important, because that then lets you have that in there, as you said, when you take it to higher level review, and it's, as Kerry said, it's part of the record and it's positive evidence for you. So get it in there as fast as you can. All right, we had, let's see, hobby currently at 40% for disc issues in the back. VA appointment yesterday, they scheduled me for another MRI. Last MRI was in 08. Should I have this MRI done? Could the results come back and hurt my rating?
If they're giving you an MRI, odds are they're not giving you an MRI for compensation purposes. They're giving you an MRI for treatment purposes. I've not heard of them giving somebody an MRI for a VA exam for compensation. So I would say if it's for treatment, go for it, get whatever treatment you need. But if you're not filing a claim for an increase, you should have nothing to worry about on the 40%. There was a day a long time ago when VA would send some of those reports to the regional office. That day is kind of past us, thankfully. So no, if you're at 40% for your back, I would not file an increase, but I would go and get whatever treatment that you need. And if it's just a follow-up MRI, sounds like that's what it may be, I think you're safe.
They're actually saying I'm louder than you for once. It makes me feel good. I got a voice that's projected.
Kerry sounds great.
Oh, dang. All right.
Sarah, see, you're not the only one that sounds good. He's better looking than I am.
Philip, wait, no, where did I see one? Comwell, I did an 8 attendance exam with my previous primary care at the VA. I requested that exam and no one at the VA can find it. I was told the form was denied, but I did submit the claim. I would submit it again. Comwell, I don't know if that's so much a question, but the fact that they lost it and it should be a part of your VA treatment records, it's kind of bizarre, but I would just submit it again, hopefully you got it. Alden B. Hello, retired in 2020, 90% disability. Recently diagnosed with sleep apnea, waiting on machine. Should I go ahead and file for sleep apnea, or do I need to wait for the machine? Any follow-ups? I'd file.
I'd file.
Yeah, don't, never wait. If you think something's related to service, you think something's got worse, file now. By the time they got their paperwork figured out, whatever you were looking for most likely will already be there. Okay, what weight will a vocational expert have if VA denied TDIU, but the vocational expert says I'm unemployable?
Well, it depends on who's rating the case, right? I mean, unfortunately, that's about right. You know, we use them. A lot of people use them. They don't have the same effect at the local level as they do on appeal, whether it be the higher level review or the board. You know, you may just get somebody that, just the fact that they don't want to grant just because you've got a private opinion, and you may have to appeal it to get a good grant. But I don't know. What do you have on that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Kerry. The key, I mean, what we tell our vets all the time is like, look, we can get your position in the case to win, and if we think you have a good case, we can win it. We just never know when. And what I mean by that is you might get a crack job for a VA examiner or VA adjudicator at the regional office, you know, but then you might get somebody on higher level review who knows what they're doing and comes back and gives you a good rating. Or you might have to take it to the board. And I think vocational expert opinions, if you get a good one, that is solid evidence to the board. And the board has a real hard time denying those, because the vocational expert goes above and beyond what a medical expert is going to do as far as looking at your past work history, your skills, at the jobs available for you in the area, and then what your disabilities, how those disabilities affect your ability to do those jobs. So I think it's great evidence. You know, but it's just like anything else. Are you going to win now? Are you going to win later? Who knows? But if you get that evidence in there, I think you have a strong chance to win. All right, going back to the question about blue water claims and legacy claims, Philip asked, I meant, are blue water claims being processed before the current legacy claims? BVA says it has 36,000 decisions signed since October 21, but I only lowered 2,000 on the docket.
I think I can explain that if that helps. I understand the question a little bit more. It's not that they're doing one before the other. They're doing both. It's just different offices and different folks doing different ones. But your Nemo claims, your blue water claims are going to be centralized to certain offices, whereas your typical claims could be done anywhere.
What about the board?
The board is going to depend on the docket number and whether it's legacy or non-legacy. Obviously, at the board, they have a priority on legacy cases. And I mean, they do everywhere, but at the same time, those people doing legacy cases probably aren't doing like Nemo cases. So you have two different trains running, and you might be, you might be looking at one and judging your case incorrectly off of those numbers.
Sgt King, QTC changed my address. I never got the letter. Reported to the VA, and now I'm just waiting for another appointment. Any options? think that's a hurry up and wait situation if you've already reported it. If you've told them, hey, they sent us the wrong address, they still need to do the exam if they said they're going to do one. But, it's probably waiting in paperwork.
If you get a denial because you failed to report for the exam, then you need to make sure you appeal that, show them that they had the wrong address and that you never got the notice, because they'll have to address it at that point.
Yeah. Frank, hello, I am 100% permanent total. I have documented Parkinsonism, Agent Orange. Should I put a claim in or let it be?
Put the claim in.
Put the claim in. So, when Carol and I are talking, we usually banter about whether you file claims for once you're 100%, what you should, if that's something you should do or leave it alone. This is a case where we would all agree that you definitely file. We just won a case last week where a veteran had been 100% for Parkinson's, and he, we appealed for a higher level special monthly compensation, and we won the top rating, which is called special monthly compensation R2. So he went from whatever 100% is, $3,500 a month, all the way up to $9,500 a month. So the range there between 100% in the top of special monthly compensation is it's a gulf. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. And there are certain cases, Parkinson's is one, MS is another, that I'm always looking to see, is the vet that bad that he has a situation where he would be eligible for that.
But don't take that as if you have Parkinson's, you're going to get R2.
Right.
All right, that is hard to do. You don't want R2 because it means your days on this earth are probably numbered.
Between 3,500 and 9,500, you can get aid and attendance, you can get a couple higher levels from there that gradually go up. But Kerry's right. I mean, that we've won, we win a handful of those cases a year. But if you have Parkinson's, the likelihood that your deficiencies rate should be rated more than 100% are, unfortunately, they're pretty high. Okay, I recently received a decision on a claim that was deferred a few months. When should I request an increase?
If you received a deferred decision, in other words, you got a rating decision, one of the issues on the decision says service connection for blank is deferred, increased rating for blank is deferred. You don't need to file anything. That means they've simply not completed their work on that particular issue.
Right.
9 times out of 10, it's deferred because they need an examination or clarification on an examination, but that issue's still pending. You file another claim now for the same thing while it's pending, it's going to confuse the record. I'd say just hold off.
Yeah. I mean, 5 months, I might say, status letter, right? To say, hey, where is this, what's going on here? You can't file an appeal on that. Frankly, it's like Kerry said, if you filed a new claim for that, it would just confuse them and it would make it even worse as far as waiting. They
get confused easy these days. We try to keep things simple for them.
Small words. All right, Greg D. What have you seen for length of time for BBA evidence submission docket case to hit the desk of a judge? Is 3 years with no movement typical?
Well, 2.5 years with no movement is typical because we have plenty of those. And now where that movement is going to stop, we don't know yet. The board, even though I think they know, they're not telling us. They say they don't know.
Well, I've been told by some people on the board that they literally are not doing those cases right now. They're not doing anything on the AMA other than expedites and then some direct appeals. So we were told a year ago, hey, if you put your claim in an evidence, it should be just over a year, or if you put your claim in direct, it should be just under a year. And then they just flipped the switch on us and they said, well, we're not doing these because Congress wants us to report on the legacy claims. So in my opinion, they pulled a fast one on us. They are changing out leadership in the Board of Veterans Appeals as we speak. Will that new leadership come in and change how they're doing things? I'd like to think if they look at the backlog they're creating with these new claims, they might put more personnel on it. But right now, from what I understand, those cases are just dry docked. I mean, they're sitting there.
Yeah.
Okay, what does it mean for a claim going from fully developed to standard?
Oh, I think I know what they're talking about. Your 526EZ now has a spot where you could say you're submitting a fully developed claim or you're submitting a claim under the standard claims process. First, this fully developed claim mentality has been around for years and years and years. All of the reports, the analysis of those claims show that they average about a day and a half faster than your standard claims process. So there's no difference. So as far as how your case is, how long it's going to take, don't think because it's fully developed it's going to be all that much faster. But a fully developed claim is basically you file a claim and you have all the evidence there for them to make a decision, and you give it to them. They don't have to develop anything, and that's a fully developed claim. If you are a Vietnam vet exposed to herbicides and you've got diabetes and you have no residuals, you're on metformin and a restricted diet, you show them that stuff, you've given them a fully developed claim for a 20% rating for service connection for diabetes. If you've got a bunch of residuals and they're not sure that you were in Vietnam and they have to go search for those records, well, then that's going to be under the standard claims process. If you check the box for fully developed and they can't do it under fully developed, they'll usually send you a form saying, we can't do this under fully developed. We have to do it under the standard claims process. My advice, I check the standard claims process all the time. One, because there's no difference in the time frame, not in reality. And two, you don't know when somebody's going to look at that and say, oh, well, we don't have to give you an exam because you said you submitted a fully developed claim. Oh, well, we're going to deny your case. I've seen that happen. I would just prefer the standard claims process because you're not giving away anything in that.
Mike Goggins. All right, here we go. Kerry, lung case for you. 30% COPD rating. PFT conducted in February. FEV 1 43, DLCO 23 with 35% predicted increase. I can never do these without having the diagnostic code in front of me, so I don't know.
It's just not stump Kerry, is it? All right, so I don't have those rating schedule, the respiratory disability rating schedule memorized.
Congratulations. She is rarely stumped, ladies and gentlemen.
But now the 23 on the DLCO sounds like 100% to me. The 40, was it 43 on the FEV1?
Yeah.
And just going off memory here, which may be wrong, I think that would land about a 60%, I think. But we just don't have the rating criteria in front of us. It would take us 30 seconds to look that up. But in the end, and you can look it up. If you look it up,
Can you throw up the rating criteria for, or just cut and paste that?
30 is the one?
Yeah.
Just books that you can-
It's the
66. I think it's 66 series diagnostic codes. So anyway, you can look that up and it'll tell you what it is. Now, having said that, take it with a grain of salt because you're going to want to know what the examiner said was the
reason.
What's the truest level of your functional defect? Do that way if the rater will, they'll know what number to apply as to what's causing, what best represents your day-to-day activity. Take that with a grain of salt too, because sometimes those examiners lowball it, sometimes I think on purpose. Matt's gonna pull it up and see if I was right or wrong here.
Where did that go? Okay. Shoot. Is this the same as all?
Yeah,
of
that's
them?
it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
So it's the less than 40 is 100%, but then, golly, I can't read that.
Here, wait. 40 to 55 is 60%. Wow, it looks like I was right.
Was it COPD or was it?
That
I think we're getting
and the DLCO. I can't see the DLCO. We're both getting old and
less than
can't-
40% predicted. So that's
All right, so that should be 100 there.
Okay.
So,
Is that a thing?
this is just the if you go down on that page, it shows the lungs and respiratory.
Oh, right.
So, but no, it's on there, but it comes up as a Word doc. So
Oh, the Word
that's what makes it. You can't really throw that out there. Okay, let's see. We have Proverbs House for Blue Water. My father served and was inside the 12-mile area. Passed away in 15. Do I have to do anything for filing? If the vet's alive, they automatically reach out to him. If he's not alive, how does that work?
That's Proverb's House. Is that Mr. Thiel? Mr. Thiel, I believe I've got your messages, and I intend to reach back out to you. So thank you for doing that. I recognize the name.
Oh.
Somebody sent me a message the other day, and if I'm wrong, I apologize. So make sure I understand the question. Your father served in Vietnam.
Blue water. Yeah.
In the blue water, and there was no claim?
Doesn't
Or
we
does
don't
that?
know? Yeah.
All right, so if he's ever filed a claim before, here's where you're gonna get caught between Nemo and blue water, all right? And it gets really weird and kind of complicated. Even though Nemo technically applies to blue water cases.
When we say Nemo, we're talking about the class of Agent Orange veterans from the Vietnam War.
Yeah, this is a class action lawsuit. It would take a couple of days to explain all of it. And then you got the blue water. Now, those are Nemo class members now because they're Vietnam veterans. But VA begged and Congress gave them the authority not to have to track down all of the claimants that have been denied because they were blue water. So what that means is VA is not going to go search for those denials any longer, unless now, with the exception of one of the three recently added disabilities, bladder, Parkinson-like syndrome, hypothyroidism. Those they still have to search for because those are being actively re-adjudicated. But the rules are a little different for blue water vets. And so let's say if a blue water vet's been denied service connection for heart disease, which is which may be a presumptive condition, VA does not have to go seek those claimants out and re-adjudicate their cases. But when those claimants come to the VA and ask for an earlier effective date or file a new claim, they are still supposed to get that original effective date. Now, if your father's passed away, that's going to kind of be, it depends, because did he file claims during his lifetime? If he did, are they Nemo type claims? Because that's, you may have to, as the son, seek out that information. Without knowing what happened in the claim, it would almost be impossible to answer it with 100%. Now, we knew what would happen. I think we could answer that question pretty good for you. And if that's you, Mr. Thiel, then I will answer you offline. You have my word on that. Just been a little busy traveling.
All right. Does the verification of a stressor need to be filled out in addition to a personal statement in support of claim? Had C&P for mental health. Now they want verification of stressor. Please help.
Well, it depends.
It depends on what kind of stressor you have. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if they concede that you were exposed to combat and you have fear of combat, military terrorist activity, then no, they don't necessarily have to confirm the stressor. If it's some other incident, a non-combat incident, I think now they pretty much are still trying to confirm those stressors.
And that's independent of your story, independent of your word. You have to have something that basically helps or collaborates with that. So that's what they might be looking for. Let's see, Felix, I have found I was diagnosed with GERD in '93. I was also diagnosed with vertigo due to inner ear infection. Which do occur with infections? What can I do? I'm assuming that you were in active duty, I guess, in '93, and if so, I'd file both those.
Yeah, we kind of don't have enough information there, I don't think. and this may not be anything related to your question, but a lot of people ask all the time, I get treated at the VA and they diagnosed me with this condition. Maybe you got out of service 30 years ago, 50 years ago. When should I file my claim? Don't think of it like that, because just because you have a condition doesn't mean you should file a claim. Right? Or just because VA is treating it doesn't mean it's a valid claim.
Or that it's related to service, just because VA is treating it. Yeah.
Right. So, look at the condition, look at your service. Is there a way to link it to your service through any specific event, certain exposures, whatever? And if you think that's the case, then file the claim. If you're not sure, then seek help. And
Mike H., service connection for mental health vet has trouble keeping home clean due to mental health. Does this qualify for aid in attendance? I think that's on the way. I don't think that's quite enough, though.
Yeah, it's getting there, but when you're talking about the activities of daily living, those specifically include feeding yourself, which is not the same as making your own meals. Okay, you got to not to be able to feed yourself, dressing yourself, bathing yourself, caring to the wants of nature, protecting yourself from harm. In other words, if you're left alone, but inability to clean the house, I don't really think we're there yet. No.
But I mean, again, as Kerry said, if you're so forgetful that you walk out of the house and don't know how to get back, if you leave the stove on, gas stove on, or something, and you could burn the house down, those would be getting there. So it's not just a messy house. It's you're.
But if you can't clean the house, what else can you not do? Right. I mean, right. Can you cook? Can you prepare meals? Now, I said there's a big difference between that and feeding yourself. But as Matt said, you're getting there. So your question makes me want to ask more questions. And so that's
where we are.
Yeah.
All right, Darn Stern, I want to say thank you for the motivation to get me on the road to 100% P&T. Finally awarded my rating after 20 years of fighting with the VA. Congratulations. That's great. And we're happy, whatever little small part we could have done there. That's great. Bobby Bowe received TDIU last month. After 2 weeks, VA initiated a review of my TDIU decision, awarded in March 22. Why would they initiate a review after granting TDIU? First of all, you can't think about logic here, because this is completely illogical.
Yeah. I would, you're saying, and I'm not knocking anything you're saying, all right, you're saying they initiated a review. What makes you think that? Okay. So I mean, that's important. Did you get a letter saying they're initiating a review? Because typically you wouldn't get one. Are they developing for some kind of evidence? Did they want to see if you're working? They do that usually on an annual basis. Maybe they're doing it prematurely here. So there's lots of things that could be going on there. Did you call the toll-free number and that's what they told you? Because keep in mind, those guys have trouble spelling VA sometimes. So I'm not supposed to knock on them.
Going back as far as the notification of, I just want to elaborate on this, notification of reduction, or they're notifying you that they're doing a review. The way that it's typically you find out is that VA gives a proposed reduction. So they don't really come up front and say, hey, we're about to do this. They say, hey, here's a proposal we're doing based on this evidence we gathered. So yeah, back to what Kerry said,
could be a QA review.
Yeah.
I mean, cases get randomly pulled for a quality assurance review on the national level. Could be that, which most of those you're not going to hear from and should not affect the case.
Let's see, Noah, if I submitted a claim for erectile dysfunction with the DBQ already filled out, will I need a C&P exam through the VA? I'm already 100% P&T, have 70% for severe depression for chronic pain. This is at the VA's prerogative, whether you go to an exam or not. Should you have to go to an exam? I don't necessarily think so if you have a quality DBQ, but does that mean that adjudicator's not going to say, hey, I want an exam? Unfortunately, you got to play their game. They could send you for no good reason, but if you don't go, you're most likely going to get denied.
Yeah, I think you will get denied.
Yeah. I believe in Jesus Christ. Going to a C&P exam for depression, second to migraines. It's going to be through telehealth. Anything I should know about this type of appointment? for depression secondary to migraines? I mean, there's no physical things to review. I think it's more just making sure. I would be making sure they understand what your day-to-day life is. I would speak to when the depression started. Did it start right at the same time you had the migraines? Did it start after? Did the migraines make it worse? So I don't, this is a telehealth one that I wouldn't mind, frankly, because, if you went in person, you would just be talking to them anyway, and there'd be no physical exam they do. So yeah, there's nothing, different than it would be an in-person there. But you just need to think about when they started, how bad it was. When you get a migraine, does it, depression come on right after that? Just kind of how the two are connected in your mind. Frank, does TDIU eventually expire once you reach full retirement age, or is it likely that your TDIU will not be granted if filing after full retirement year? 38 CFR 4.1, is that it? The 4.16.
4.16?
Yeah, look under that. The VA specifically says that they cannot look to age when they're giving a rating. So they cannot consider your age at all. We have, every year we get multiple 90-year plus vets who are on TDIU. So it doesn't matter if you've retired, when you retire. All it matters is, does that disability keep you from doing a job or, on a day-to-day basis, week-to-week basis? So that's their rule. That's not us trying to pull a fast one on the VA. So they cannot put age in the equation when they're determining that.
Now, that doesn't mean they won't try.
Yeah.
Sometimes, at the local level especially, what you may see is, they'll analyze your work history, and the record shows that you retired at age 65 or 75, whatever age, due to normal retirement age. And now you're filing for TDIU, so clearly you didn't become unemployable because of your disability. We're going to deny your TDIU. You need to appeal those decisions if you get one like that. One, exactly because of what Matt said, they're not supposed to consider age. And two, it may completely be apples and oranges. You may have retired at 65, maybe you're 85 now, maybe you didn't have the disability at 65 that you do now. So everything has changed now for you compared to when you weren't working. That's just people not thinking past their nose and trying to get a quick decision done and not knowing what they're doing.
And I'll add to that, as far as what Kerry said, as far as you finish working, you retire for one reason, and then you get you develop a disability later. Well, I see quite often with mental health conditions that a veteran will stop working, and it's like all that extra time, unfortunately, becomes maybe not a nightmare, but it basically allows them to think and relive stuff that they did when they were younger, and their PTSD goes from being totally under control to totally out of control. And so it's actually interesting how sometimes work can put a lid on that, because it gives the vet something to do and just kind of living their life. All right. I want to know if Congress is pursuing to introduce a new bill to reduce ratings for veterans filing a new claim. I don't really quite understand that, but the answer
The only bill that I'm aware of is ones that are saying we're just not going to allow new claims. I'm kidding. No, there's no bill. There's no bill like that, and it probably would never fly if somebody tried to introduce. And every disability is looked at independently on how it's rated. So doesn't mean they're not going to come out with new rating schedule where a certain disability used to be 50%, now they're going to call it 10%. They're doing that sort of with sleep apnea, but they can do that. But they're not going to come back and reduce everybody for that reason.
I should lead with the disclaimer that Kerry is the funniest man he's ever met. So you just got to take that with a grain of salt there.
I am not a funny person. Let's be clear on that, even when I try to be.
All right, James, I'm 100% PCT-PT. So permanent total, PCT, what is that? Percentage. 100% permanent total. I sent a notice for an intent to file. After your previous advice, I don't want any problems. Will that intent just drop off if I don't send in a formal claim? I mean, there's nothing VA loves more than just to drop intent to file, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not a claim yet, so. I
Yeah.
think,
Sorry, P. Kidman. I can't really see that. What does a veteran get more compensation for a spouse who might be able to work than a child who is totally dependent? So looking at dependents.
The short answer is because that's the rate set by Congress.
Yeah.
I mean, as you know, VA doesn't have a say-so in that.
Do you all help out for Social Security for vets? What we do is we've got attorneys we work with who do just Social Security. We've kind of transitioned to doing all VA because, frankly, we can't help a number of the vets that want to come in and we think have good claims. So we don't do that, but we do have veterans that we do look to. Okay, let's see. When you Jacques, when you restart, I don't know if you answered my question. It's when is it good to add a headache log? VSO doesn't think it's best to add extra paperwork up front. I mean, I'm sorry, my face gives me away sometimes. If you have a headache log and you have headaches, that is as good of evidence as you get, especially if it's contemporaneous when you're having the headache. So, you know, you get a headache on Monday you write down I had for this long, for this intensity. So I disagree with that, VSO.
Me too.
Michael, send it in. Michael, if I appeal an early effective date, will they send me to another CMP exam? And if they do, can I just not go to it? You can always not go, and you'll be denied.
Yeah, but odds are no. I mean, odds are if you got a 100% rating for PTSD and you think it should go back another year, 5 or whatever, odds are that's not going to get you a new exam. You know.
Yeah.
Now, there's some caveats to that. Sometimes it will. Let's say you win the case at the board and it goes back 10, 15 years, and they don't have rating criteria. You know, say the file is blank. You know,
Right.
they may have to give you an examination for, you know, a retrospective examination just to have some kind of evidence on how to rate the case.
And you want them to do that because that's a long time. They will screw that up. Rarely do I see a CMP exam CMP examiner that understands that they're supposed to be looking back 15 years and not what's going on right now. But that would be an exam I definitely would say you need to go to. All right. Is it possible to claim depression for serving during Don't Ask, Don't Tell? I had stayed closeted during my service for fear of being discharged without any benefits, and it took a huge toll. Excuse me. I think that's a pretty interesting case.
That's a new one on me.
I think you could do it. You know, what's your incident in service? That you were gay, so you have to share you're gay in service. I mean, how can they say you weren't?
I mean, just off the cuff, I think you would have to show that, you know, your mandate sort of to depress who you are led to the current depression. I mean, I think that sounds plausible. I've just never seen a case like that, but I think would be a very interesting
I'd
case.
definitely pursue it. I mean, you're probably going to have to go to the board to win that, but I think say that again. That was good.
The fact that you had to suppress who you were in the military, right? If that was the trigger for the depression,
Yeah.
okay, or whatever other mental health disability, then you may have a shot there. I think that's going to be the key is linking those two together. So you're going to need to word it very specifically and argue it very carefully. Because otherwise no one's going to think to make that link for you.
Right.
They're going to say, well, your service didn't make you who you are, and if you got depression 20 years later, you know, that's going to be difficult to show. But yeah, I think it might be possible.
I'd go for it. And then also,
There is a question that came in afterwards from that same person, or comment that says, I was diagnosed with adjustment disorder
in service.
while in the military.
Okay, so if you were, if you were diagnosed with something in the military, it's a mental health condition, forget about it. You got it.
Yeah.
As far as your incident in service, I mean, you don't need to worry about what led to that. Now you need to worry about how is that connected. So that takes, frankly, a big load off you.
Said he didn't get a copy when he got out. You said you didn't get a copy when you got out of the medical records.
Get
Yeah,
them out.
that wouldn't matter, as long as they're in the medical records, if you've got them now or VA has them, I would file the claim. And it wouldn't be then dependent on you being gay or not gay, the fact that you've got an adjustment disorder that started in
Right.
service.
Any idea, what does it say here? What are they working on for legacy appeals? What year, I guess is the,
Probably the board.
yeah, the board.
Well, it depends on if you look at their website, where you're getting your info. I mean, the board says right now, I think they're August 2019 Form 9s.
Right.
I've seen some much older than that are not being worked on. I've seen others much newer than that get worked on. I mean, trying to figure out what the board's doing right now, it's almost impossible.
I don't think they can. I was
No.
told they have an internal algorithm. They got their own Google going on, and they're trying to, that will pop up on a judge's desk. Here's the next one you need to decide. And I've been told that there's no rhyme or reason, and they don't quite understand how that's working. Kind of scary. That's
I have a
that's
theory.
Oh boy, he's got a theory.
You want to hear my theory?
Let's hear your theory.
My theory is when they built CaseFlow, all right, CaseFlow is the system they use now. It used to be called VACOs. And under VACOs, they had every kind of reporting analysis, and they could run reports on all kinds of different things coming out of the board, why they're coming out of the board, when they're coming out of the board, how long is it taking them to come out of the board. My guess is they didn't build those same reporting requirements into CaseFlow when they, and now people are sitting there twiddling their thumbs trying to figure out, oh gee, how do we get all of our data that we used to get? I might be wrong on that, but
He's got a theory.
yeah, that's my theory.
All right. This is another one. Where are we with VBA backlog already? Do you see any change or current views? I think they probably meant BBA. So we just spoke to that. Brian Wood, I was 90% scheduler, and just last week, through my attorney, I got notification that I'm now 100% P&T at 48 years old. God is good. I feel blessed. That's great for you, Brian. Go live your life. Get out of worrying about this darn VA system. Good for you. Some fellow here said helo crash was the stressor. Can you look that up, Ephraim? BRBN DR in KR. It says helo crash was the stressor. I guess I missed the question a little further up.
Oh, okay.
All right, Lucy. The VA didn't even know that I had a Bronze Star attached to my Veteran Service Medal, not an individual Bronze Star for the Navy Battle Star. Still deferred on all things since July 2021. I mean, that's incompetence.
Yeah, that's, I can give you my theory. One, because it's not taken VA almost a year to do claims now, okay, not at the local level. Except if you are unfortunately in the bucket where they have to research stressors, unit records, herbicide stuff, blue water, in other words, VA took over, I think we've said this before, VA took over DOD's records research office. So now VA runs that. There's no office like that in DOD. They understaffed it, and then the field, or apparently the people who run it, misinterpreted what central office told them. That's just the shortest way I can put that. And they're being far too over-inclusive on who they put in those buckets to do that research on, and that's causing a big delay for the people that actually need the research done. And that's why blue water cases, if you've got a case where the veteran may not be clear whether they're in blue water, or some other form of case that requires records research like that. I've had one that went 2 years, and easily more than a year. That would be why I would think something would be taking that long, given the rest of your question there.
Yeah. Back to the gentleman before about the verification of stressor. The question earlier was verification of stressor needs to be filled out in addition to personal statement in support of claim for a mental health claim. The stressor was a helo crash. So that would definitely be something that you need to verify, unfortunately, either through a buddy statement, if you knew when and where you were exactly, there actually probably should be records out there, but you would need to know a pretty specific date range for that. So, but yeah, you've got to verify that in addition to your statement as far as what's going on.
And that's where Google's going to be your friend. If something did crash somewhere, right? Odds are there's going to be, like Matt said, there's going to be a record of it, and there very well may be a public record of it. So do your own research there as well, because they can take verification from the secondary sources of a crash that you may have been involved with.
R. Normant, will my knee receive a separate rating for instability, which I have knee braces, my torn meniscus and painful motion, even if it does meet the range of motion criteria?
You could.
Yeah, you can get up to 3 separate ratings actually for your knee, so that is a possibility there. Let's see, Felix had asked about the vertigo and the GERD. Those are both happened on active duty, so yes, those should both, that's the service connection claim right there. EOE, hi, can cervical radiculopathy be service connected secondary to lower back?
Negative.
Answer would be no. Yeah.
No.
No. It would seem from a layman's standpoint that the whole spine is one spine and it all should be interactive, but you will not find doctors who are really willing to say something in the thoracic spine, much less the radiculopathy in the upper extremities, is related to something going on in the lumbar spine.
You're going to have to get the cervical spine itself service connected. Yeah. Then you'll get your cervical radiculopathy service connected.
Okay, Mike H. Vet also has problems getting motivation to brush and floss teeth and shower some days, but often goes many days without showering. I think this must be the mental health A&A vet.
Yeah,
that's closer, but I still don't think it's it.
It's closer, but the rating criteria for 100% specifically takes that information into account. So VA is going to say we're compensating you 100%, and the criteria covers the exact things that you're suffering from. So yeah.
Daniel served in the Navy 85 to 90 aboard a ship. Our drinking water was often contaminated with fuel. Is there any service-connected rating for digestive tract due to exposure to this contaminated water? So is there any service-connected rating? So I think we're mixed in a couple things there. The rating would be what diagnostic code you use, but before you get to that, you'd have to have a specific disability, okay? Diagnosed disability that you're rating, and then you got to show that's related to the service. So if you can show that you actually were ingesting fuel, jet fuel or whatever, or diesel fuel, then and you have a current diagnosis, then yeah, you could be rated for it. I've not won one of those claims off a ship though.
I've seen those claims a lot of times. I have never seen one successful. And I've heard from various experts. All the experts I've heard from say that we're talking about 2 separate systems that cannot get mixed together. But at the same time, I've heard from a lot of vets that said I was on a ship where the water was contaminated by fuel.
Tasted like fuel. Yeah.
First of all, you need to be able to show that, all right? Because if you can, that's a very valid exposure, right? If it was in the water that you were drinking, all right? But don't think because you heard it,
yeah,
VA is going to take your word for it, okay? And if it was there, I guarantee you the Navy's got a record of it somewhere. So you're going to have to do some homework on something like that. Or VA is likely just going to deny it outright.
Yeah. Uncle Mark, I'm 100% P&T, and I messed up and filed claims for increases on several more disabilities. Have I made a mistake?
It depends.
Well, here he says, VA also contacted me and said I have a hearing coming up for reduction.
Okay, possibly.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, you can withdraw those claims if they're not going to get you a higher, increase your rating to like some kind of special monthly compensation. The reduction, you got to be present for, unfortunately, because they've got you in that process. You need to show that in the course of your daily living that whatever that disability is has not improved, and then hopefully get out of the system altogether. That's what I would do.
Yeah, and if you defeat the reduction, which a lot of reductions are unlawful and they can be defeated, then take it with a grain of salt. Don't file any more claims after that unless you speak to somebody with a lot of expertise.
Yeah. Let's see. Are you allowed to move out of the country if you are receiving TDIU?
Yes.
Michael, I'm currently 70%. How can you help me get to 100%? Well, that'd be dependent upon the rating or ratings you have. I mean, one we deal with most of the time is that 70% rating or ratings keep you from working. If it does, then you should be applying for unemployability, which essentially is the back door to 100%. Otherwise, you need to look at each rating, see what criteria you meet, how high you can get. We have a calculator on our website you can look at, play around with, show different, you look at different ratings and see what they're rating, what specific ratings you can get for each one. Closer you get to 100%, the harder it is to get 100%. It's like, halfway to the goal line every time in football. You get inside that 5-yard line, you almost never get there. You just get halfway, you get a little inch closer and closer. So there's no magic bullet there. But if you aren't working, I definitely would try that route. All right, Jeffrey, mental health claim secondary to primary. VA asking for PTSD info to move forward. Have recent PTSD diagnosis not in original claim. Submit, or are they looking to tank the claim? All right, I'm going to see if I can reformat this. You filed mental health secondary to something you're already getting service connected for. VA says, if you have PTSD, directly related service, we want more information on that. If you have PTSD directly related service, sure, give more information on that. But you know what? You could also still have depression related to chronic pain due to your back. So you could take both tracks. Might confuse them, but if both things are going on with you and you have evidence of both, you're only going to get service connected for one. You're only going to get compensated, I should say, for one. But I don't know enough information other than that.
And typically, you're not gonna get PTSD from another service-connected condition. It gets something very similar, some type of depression, anxiety disorder, sure, but it's not usually going to be PTSD. So there may be an issue with the nomenclature there. So if you are filing this claim, don't file for PTSD secondary to a low back condition. Depression, anxiety, that's fine. If there's another cause for the PTSD, that's fine too. Maybe it's the same cause as, for the other primary condition. But that just strikes me, that's what I tend to think about when I hear that question is, are you trying to file service connection for PTSD secondary to a physical disability?
Yeah. Michael, this goes back to the fellow who's 70% trying to get to 100. My highest percentage is 50% for sleep apnea, have a 30% for anxiety. So again, go to our calculator and do all this, but I'll just do a quick one for you here. Okay, let's say your anxiety is really bad, but not to the point to where we had the other gentleman who couldn't, didn't bathe or didn't brush his teeth. So you're up at a 70%. So if you have a 70% rating for anxiety, that leaves you 30% healthy. So you take the 50% for the sleep apnea rating, and you take 50% of the 30, which is 15%, on top of the 70. If you're still with me, that rounds up to a 90% rating.
I'm from Kentucky. Don't look at me.
But the problem is, that 50% rating. If you did real person math, that should be 120%. But it's not. So to get yourself up even further, I don't even know what you have to get, but it's quite a bit. If you don't have any other ratings, and you're working full time and not a sheltered environment, I think that's going to be hard pressed to get you to 100%.
I could probably add to that. They said 30 for mental health and 50 for sleep apnea.
And then he's got 20% for costeochondritis. Yeah.
Right. So let's just take away the costeochondritis for a second and look at just the mental health and the sleep apnea. 30%, you're probably not in reduction range there. So I think you're safe filing for an increased rating. Right? The sleep apnea is probably a static issue, right? One way to look at it like this is if you had 90% for the mental health, which you can't because it only goes to 70 or 100, but if you could, if you had 90% for mental health and you had that 50 for sleep apnea, that would come to 95, because 50% of 10, which is what's left of the whole man after you take the 90% away, comes to 5. You add that to the 90, you got a 95% disability, it rounds up to 100. My point there is, well, there's no rating for 90 for
Right.
mental health. Highest you get there, most likely 70, unless it's real severe, to get to 100. So if you got your PTSD up to 70, 50% of what's left is 30, that's 85, and you haven't thrown in the other percentage yet. So, you know, point is, you could get an increase, maybe to 100, maybe not. It sound like you have a tough time getting to 100 from those combinations, but you've got plenty of room for an increased rating
Yeah,
in the mental
yeah.
health.
At least go that far. Liam, when the VA system is so complex and unfair, veterans need attorneys to get what they deserve. What a world we live in. Well, I totally agree with that. I think it's crazy that they seem to make it more and more complex. You should also know, though, that up until 2006, you couldn't hire an attorney or an agent like Kerry. So they kept us out of the system. So, you know, I won't defend the VA, but, you know, at least you have the option to hire an attorney or someone now. Scott, do we have any updates on where the new proposals stand? They just closed the proposals on mental health, ENT, and I can't remember what the other one is. They just closed the question and comment period, which was, I think I talked about, which basically they proposed the regulations, and people, anyone and everyone can come back and say, here's what we find deficient in your regulation. And now that they've closed that, VA has to go through and answer every single comment that was put in. I don't know how many comments were put in total, but I know that the mental health rating is one of the most commented upon issues they've ever had. You know, that's all I know. I'm thinking it's going to be still several months at least. I don't know.
No, I completely agree. At a minimum, several months. If it goes like other regulations have gone in the past, several years.
Yeah. Anyway you slice it, there's also going to be lawsuits on this at the federal circuit. So, you know, but they have moved forward, that's for sure. Are there any secondary conditions due to radiculopathy? I have 20% in each arm and 20% in each leg.
I mean, not that.
Loss of use.
Yeah, loss of use. If you can't, it's short of an accident. You know, if you had something that caused you to fall, neuropathy or radiculopathy in your leg, and you hurt something else, you could put a claim like that together. You got to be kind of particular with it. But yeah, other than loss of use, nothing comes to mind that's just directly related to it.
Joan, husband has 10% tinnitus, 50% PTSD, waiting on a decision for sleep apnea secondary to PTSD. He received a CPAP a couple years back through the VA. That's probably going to be denied by the regional office, most likely the sleep apnea due to PTSD. You're going to need an outside opinion. I've yet to see a CMP doctor say, you know, one's related to the other, even though there's a ton of medical evidence out there. And so you're going to need to go get an exam, and you're most likely going to have to take that to the board. This is one of those issues where they have the new rating proposed, so you definitely want to pursue this hard now. You know, hopefully you would get it service connected, get that 50% for the CPAP. When the new regs come out, if they come out as they stand, that would most likely be a 10% rating. Whether you would get to keep the 50 if you got it or not is an open question. They might give you the 50 for the whole appeal period and then give you a 10 going forward. That's not quite clear yet. There's a lot of speculation in that. We don't even know if that regulation is going to stand. Oh, here's one for Kerry. Walt, are VA raters having trouble with Gulf War claims? Have diagnosed for presumptive, but VA did not connect.
Yes. They're having tons of trouble with Gulf War claims. They've had trouble with Gulf War.
Have they ever
claims.
not had Gulf?
Yeah. There's never been a time where they have not had any trouble with Gulf War claims. And in your particular situation, I unfortunately see that all the time. You know, fibromyalgia, irritable bowel syndrome, chronic fatigue syndrome. You know, where the examiner, what does it here lately that I've seen? One, the examiner's answering questions they're not supposed to. If you've got one of those conditions, stop the train, that's it, service connection should be granted, no
And
reason.
let's talk about the rating.
Yeah. But they go on to answer some questions on their exam template, such as, is the condition, whatever it is, whatever it may be, secondary to a specific exposure incident during the Gulf? That question is on there because if it's not presumptive, if it doesn't fit their category under the Gulf War rules, it could still be related to a specific exposure. So the question's there for purpose, but it's not there to deny a presumptive condition. Doctors will answer that and say, no, I don't know of a specific exposure that caused the fibromyalgia. It goes to the rater, and the rater goes, oh, well, I got a negative opinion for fibromyalgia. So no one's understanding it. The examiners, the raters,
Yeah.
Now that's an issue that you will be able to get overturned on appeal.
That's a higher level appeal.
Yeah.
But they should get that in the
Yeah.
RO, return it within 3 months.
Yeah.
But it's damn frustrating.
Yes. So it's a good question and easy to answer.
Can you put up the series we did on Golf War? Was that through YouTube? Just something else.
You can sign up for free. I'll send it up.
Okay, because I was going to say that Kerry and I did a series on that, and we walked through that ad nauseum. If you want to know more about it, but that's just such a constant problem where they are just denying vets benefits they deserve, and just layup cases. Just easy. VA should knock out right away. All right, Tom M. Can fires on near Camp Pendleton in 03 and 07 with gas chamber be nexus to sinusitis? Did not deploy due to injuries, just got diagnosis, but have breathing issues ever since. If you got diagnosed in service, yeah, file that now. You have the problem. That's all you need to do. If you didn't, and you got to show proof of those fires and you were there, and then get somebody to say that that's related to what's going on. Richard, never had a deferred item before. I'm currently 90%, 93 actually, waiting on radiculopathy sciatica. As I understand it, they're asking for a C&P examiner for clarification. It's already been connected. Okay. So, that's what you're saying. So right. So why it's been deferred. So yeah, I mean, you would hope that could turn around in a couple of weeks, but it could be several months just going back and forth between the doctor and the C&P services. Joan, what is my husband's chances for TDIU if he gets 50% for sleep apnea in addition to 50% for PTSD and tinnitus? He's been on SSDI, so Social Security Disability, for 5 years. He definitely meets the minimum rating requirement, and if his PTSD in particular keeps him from being around people and not being nice to superiors or bosses, I'd say you got a pretty good shot. Where was that? Ricardo, if the stressor event is directly indicated in an official personnel file and performance reports of the veteran, do we still have to wait for the JSRRC record response to have the claim rated? No. But are they going to wait?
Yeah, you shouldn't have to.
But they're still going to wait.
It depends on if it gets put in there or not. Now, they could look at a case like that and say, yeah, we accept the stressor, okay, and we don't need to do any more development. And that could be it. But if it gets put in there, it would probably still take as long. Now, it may be put in there by accident, because the VSR may have looked at it and think, oh, I got to put this in here.
Right.
And it's a problem. I mean, I had a client die that should not have been in that pile. Had nothing to do with any of the reasons that office even exists. And I kept telling them to take it out, and they wouldn't take it out. Apart from that, his claim would have been granted favorable opinion, the whole 9 yards. It was ready to go, and he died, and I was really pissed. And his family didn't get anything for that. So, yeah, it's a problem.
And then just along with that, you might have spoke to this earlier. The average time you're seeing for vets to get their service records from the archives, post-COVID, it's well over a year, if not two.
Yeah. Your better bet, in my opinion, if you've got claims going or are getting benefits, don't go to the archives to get your records. I mean, unless VA doesn't have them, odds are you're going to do better just requesting your claims file from the VA. Mm-hmm. That's still going to take a little bit to get. It's still may take 6 months or longer. but they have to give that to you. And then you would get your service records and all your VA records as well.
Yeah.
You know.
Let's see, Gavin, excuse me. Oh no, we just talked about that. I apologize. Liam, what's the best way for 100% P&T PTSD vets stay off the VA's radar to avoid reductions, like in the situation Uncle Mark was talking about with his reduction hearing? So just, I think stepping back, a lot of vets get confused when they hear permanent total. They think that suggests that they have a rating the VA is not going to touch. Unfortunately, that's not true. Your rating has to be protected before they can't really touch your rating, and that's a 20-year wait on that. Okay, so staying off their radar. I mean, if you file new claims, if you file claims for increase on the claims that got you to the 100%, you have put yourself on their radar. You can't. There's no guarantee that you'll ever not be on the radar again. If that makes sense, but you can significantly reduce the chances by just never filing a claim again, unless, as Kerry said, you have something that's catastrophic, or I think we spoke to Parkinsonism earlier. But you do your job not to stay on it. They can still come after you, but I think if you're not filing claims, you got a really good chance.
Yeah, I mean, VBA, the Benefits Administration, is not going to pull your case when they have 2 million others. When there's nothing pending on your case. Just Mike Smith, by God, we got to watch him. They don't care. Okay, you give them a reason, like Matt said, and then you get up with a bad exam, and then they might be forced to do something. But don't think of it like you have to avoid VA altogether. If you get health care through
Not
the
medical,
VA,
right?
Keep. The only thing you really need to do is just not file any claims. Particularly on the stuff that you have. I wouldn't file any at all unless it was catastrophic or something that's going to get you way above 100%. And that you should be fine just by doing that. Go to VA, get your health care, take care of yourself, live your life, and just don't file any claims.
Amen. Johnny White, no treatment records in service. Is it possible to still connect migraines due to being an artillery unit? The artillery unit that's your incident in service. So if there's evidence out there, that's damn loud. It's like paratroopers. We represent paratroopers all the time about bad necks, knees, ankles. Well, they never sought treatment in service, but all those bad landings, that's what led to it. And we have doctors who would review that and state that.
Yeah, and you've got not just with the noise, but you've got the blast impact.
Yeah.
If you were around enough of those shots, I guess depending on where you're standing. I mean, repeated micro traumas. I don't know if I'd call that a micro trauma.
It's pretty darn big trauma.
But so you just may have to be very specific with the VA so they know where you're coming from.
Yeah. John, I'm waiting for an appeal, and my appeal says waiting for a judge. How many years could this take? Almost been a year now. It could be years. It could be another year. It could be another 4 years. Unfortunately, there's no rhyme or reason to that.
If you requested a hearing, it's going to be a long time.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't request a hearing. The VSOs love hearings. BVA looks at that and says, we're putting you at the back of the line, and you're going to wait until your file rots, unfortunately. Gerardo, 70% major depressive order anxiety with insomnia, 10% peripheral vestibular disorder, 10% tinnitus, 10% hearing loss, 30% migraine. Can I apply for sleep apnea because I have a CPAP? Yes, you can always put in a claim. It sounds like you got enough there that could be primary service connect. It could be a secondary to some of those. Okay, we're going to go for the rapid round here. Been going a little long. This is an interesting question, Philip, and we spoke about it a little before. If we as veterans mislabel an injury as secondary, but it was primary, does the VA have a duty to work it correctly? If they don't, is that a failure to assist?
I'd have to see the facts on that. Wait, read it again.
So if the vet says, we talked about this mental health, that I have a mental health condition secondary to my migraines, but it turns out they have PTSD, to service they had in Afghanistan or something.
Yeah.
They still have to develop that. They can't ignore.
They have a legal duty to consider all theories of entitlement.
Right.
But I guarantee you That does not happen in many cases. So if you filed it a very specific way, that's how they're going to consider it most of the time. Are they supposed to look at other avenues? Yes. Don't expect them to do that.
But I mean, you're
Yeah.
right. It is a failure
Yeah.
duty to assist.
Yeah.
You can't limit the scope of your theory of the claim. Okay, you can't say this was a medical malpractice in the VA, and I want you to look at that when actually, your knee started hurting you in service. So, but Kerry's right. Kerry's a lot more jaded than I am, but he's right here.
Well, now, so keep in mind that I have to look up jaded. I know what it is, but I'm not sure how to play it. Anyway,
How is it?
I lost my train of thought.
That train went off the rails.
That happens a lot, daily.
All right, we'll get back to the train of thought. Mike, what can I do if I've been waiting for an appeal started in 2015? It's been remanded 3 times. You are on the hamster wheel, unfortunately. That's the hated thing the VA puts people on. You got to ride it out. They're going to try to get you to where you're too fatigued and you want to walk away, and that's the last thing you want to do. I mean, hopefully at this point, you got a claim that's going to win, and you got, 7 years of benefits they owe you, so you just got to stick to it. Unfortunately, there's no way out other than quitting.
Yeah, and you get a board denial, go to court.
Yeah, take it to the Veterans Court.
Don't let the appeal die.
Mr. One, what can I do about the paperwork needed for the last jobs I worked? This is for TDIU, the form, 4142 or something?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
The VA, it's more of a pro forma thing, and the VA is going to send it out and request that from your employers 2 times, 3 times, to where they need to see if they can get it.
Couple at the most.
If you can get it, if you know the employers, if you can go say, hey, look, would you fill this out? Great, get it, send it back, but they're going to send it out at least twice. If they don't get anything back, then they just decide your case. Can you get, BD, can you get TDIU for PTSD? Recently related, 70%. What's the right way to go about it? Appeal the 70% decision or file a new claim? Well, with this new system, it's all screwed up. Think about TDIU not as a claim in and of itself. Can be in a few situations, but in yours, it's not. TDIU is just a matter of the rating. Okay, you're fighting for the correct rating. So you don't want to label this as a new claim. Okay, you could file a supplement. No, would it even be a supplemental claim if you file 8940? It shouldn't be.
I don't think so.
You need to file the 21 -8940. That's a claim for unemployability. Okay.
Do you need to file a supplement?
Yeah.
No, you don't.
No.
No.
So you just file that and you say, this should be my correct rating for PTSD, unemployability. I tend to appeal the rating itself and say that it should be 100% or TDIU. That's in an abundance of caution because usually I'm going for TDIU, but you want to say my rating, my PTSD keeps me from working, and therefore my rating should be TDIU.
My thought came back to me. If they don't consider,
You got to tell us what we're talking about.
yeah, we're coming back to the theories of entitlement.
Okay.
Right? And if they don't consider everything, and because you were asking about new and relevant evidence, a new theory of entitlement that VA has not considered in the past is itself new and relevant evidence. So keep that in mind. If you filed it very specifically under one theory and there's a much better theory that you should have filed it under, or they just forgot to look at that better theory, you can do a supplemental claim with no new and material evidence and then explain to them that what your new theory is, and it could itself be new and relevant evidence.
It always comes back to him.
Usually too late.
Richard Jacks, currently 50% for PTSD. I have an open case for increase. Okay, so open case for increase for PTSD. VA diagnosed me with extreme sleep apnea, but I've not filed secondary. Should I see what happens on the increase for PTSD first? If you have it, no. You can have as many claims open as you want. My suggestion is always have claims that you think you can win. But if that's secondary, you file that. You fight both of them. They're going to be in different stages, but don't wait on that.
Yeah, and pretty soon you're only going to be able to get about 10% for most cases of sleep apnea. You file it now before that law changes, They're gonna have to apply the one most favorable to you, or get it on record.
Bobby, can you get rated for AFib, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, back issues, and doing pain management? Okay, you cannot get a rating for high blood pressure. That's not a diagnosis.
Wait. High cholesterol you can.
High cholesterol you can, but not high blood pressure.
No, high blood pressure you can.
If it's what's it called?
Diagnostic.
Hypertension.
Hypertension, right.
Yeah, but if it's just high blood pressure, you can't.
Oh, like an isolated reading.
Yeah.
No, you're right.
So you can't get rated for high blood pressure unless you have, several readings of that, which then should be hypertension, high cholesterol. You can, back issues. Yeah,
You can't, high cholesterol.
you cannot. Right.
Right.
I
thought you said can.
I probably did.
Sorry.
I'm messed up here. All right, sorry, folks. All right. I don't know where we were going in doing pain management. Okay. Oh, we're wrapping up. I'm getting the curtain call here. Let's see. No more guesses. If mine. Okay. Let's see. We've got a couple more here. Hello. I have 2 SMCLs, but I'm trying to file PTSD medicine management. And bad news, service connected. Help getting out of tube. Does 2 SMCLs for distinct conditions equal SMCO, which will then be R1? So there's a lot going on there, but the simple answer is if you have two distinct SMCLs, which are 2 aid and attendants, let's say, okay, let's say the fellow we spoke to, or we were talking about, who had the 100% for PTSD, couldn't eat, couldn't be in the house by themselves, was a danger to themselves, and they had aid and attendants for that. And then that person also has such a bad back that they can't take a shower, can't use the restroom and those things. They have SMCL for that. Those 2 together would then be SMCO. Yeah. And he's saying, does it lead to R1 because you have an SMCL under aid and attendance? It would, right?
It would. So
yeah. So L is, we're talking about their steps of special monthly compensation. We talked about R2 being the top, then it's R1 below that, then O, NML.
yeah, and all that's L and a half, M and a half, N and a half, O,
R1,
R1,
R2.
R2.
It's extremely complicated. I think hopefully we have some, I don't know if we have any articles, hopefully we have some articles on that you could look up. But those are a lot harder. But David, you seem to,
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with the PTSD stuff, but if you have 2 L's, and one of which is for aid and attendance, then you've got, you should get up to O.
Yeah. Easiest way to think about that is, and I may be saying the same thing you said, Matt, in a different way. I'm sorry. Any 2 L's get you to O. I'm sorry. Any 2 rates between L and N get you to O. So 2 L's, an L and an M, you go to O. If you're at O, forget how you got there. If you're at O and you need aid and attendance, you go straight to R1. In this situation only, the aid and attendance can be counted twice, so to speak, to get to the R1, but it cannot be counted twice to get to the O. In other words, if you lost both legs, all right, that's below the knee, that's an L, right? If that requires you to need aid and attendance because you lost both legs below the knee, you still just have 1 L. Okay, because you can't get twice. You can't count them twice like that. You can't get aid and attendance and loss of use of both legs all at the same time if that's your only disabilities. All right. Here's another good example: loss of use of both feet and loss of use of both hands. You get one's an L, one's an M. That takes you straight to O. There is no way in hell you're not going to need aid and attendance. Okay, if you're not
Technically speaking.
Yeah, right. So if you don't get aid and attendance, if it's not on your code sheet, file for aid and attendance. You're going to go straight to R1.
And somebody asked, how do you apply for SMCL? There's a form for aid and attendance. The interesting thing about special monthly compensation is they are inferred claims, meaning the VA should just grant them to you. Okay, you shouldn't have to apply for them. If you realize, like Kerry just said, you had the problem with your hands and you had all these other issues, and 10 years later you said, hey, what about special monthly compensation? that case goes all the way back to when you were initially eligible for that, because it's an inferred claim and it's open until it's decided or given, frankly.
Yeah, and on that example, if you do have two rates and you're at O and one of them's A and A, one, it's an error not to make you at R1, and two, if that's the case, I don't think the PTSD would make a difference.
Yeah. Don't worry about that. Okay, we're gonna wrap it up here. We talked about how you appeal. Okay. Okay, medically retired from special ops, currently at 100% P&T with 70% for PTSD, TBI. God, I hate how they do that. Unable to work. Is it worth seeking medical? Excuse me. Is it worth? I'm done, guys. Is it worth seeking legal representation for SMCT? If unable to work is your only problem here, then I would say no. It's what we're talking about with aid and attendance. You got to show there's a higher level need than just unable to work. So you need somebody to give you medical care. You need somebody to be there in the house at full time. Kerry and I there's a debate between whether you need to meet the SMC R1 requirements or the R2 requirements to get that T.
Do we have that debate?
We did.
We did?
I decided I'm going to go with you because you just said R1.
Okay. Well, there is one aspect to that I don't think we have a debate on. You're not going to go straight to SMCT, okay? Yeah. In 99% of the cases, look at your situation and ask yourself, can I get the regular aid and attendance? All right, regular SMCL, if you want to look at it that way. If you can't get A&A, regular A&A, don't try for T, because you're not going to get there, all right? I mean, that's because you're trying to get a higher rate of A&A, because that's what SMCT is really. Right. The disability requirements require you to meet a higher need of A&A, not a regular need of A&A. So you need to meet the regular need of A&A. I'm not seeing anything in the question, not saying you don't have it, but just in the question, that would lead me to think there's an A&A type benefit there. Thus, if you can't get that, you're not going to get to T. So look at your situation in that light. That may help you.
And the other thing I do is just look at I don't like it when they couple PTSD and TBI. I mean, sometimes that's the correct rating, but I would be interested in seeing if there's issues in one that are not in the other, and you should be rated for both. But yeah, otherwise I agree with Kerry. All right, folks. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm glad to have had a chance to get back on with you guys. I've missed this. I love hearing all the stories of folks who are winning their benefits and sharing the fact that this can get done, because I feel like a lot of what we talk about is how the VA is delaying, and so it's just great to see folks getting the benefits they deserve, and we appreciate all the questions. So thanks so much, and we'll see you again next